Today, we get to talk with a communist spy. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so there are some things that you can't talk about, I assume.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Just shoot, that's just fire up, just fire up. I'll find the way around, yes.
Okay, I'll trust your judgment to decide which one, what stuff you can and can't say.
Yes.
But in the first time I met you in an interview with Rob the other day, and you should check that out too, my friends. It's a wonderful video. But I did manage to get out of you that you did once wear a black leather trench coat. That completes the picture, man. Sometime you got to dig out a pic. Do you have any pictures of you in your trench coat?
Absolutely, I'll send you. So
that would be so cool.
I'll send you as soon as we finish the interview. I'm just looking at my mobile phone is on another side, so I'll send you. No problem. Yes, I do. Look, the letter code and the people make a perception. Is not because you have nothing else to wear. First of all, you need to be immaculately clean. That's number one, presentable. And most importantly, you want to wear the stuff if they can conceal, cover, and most importantly, to protect yourself against different things. The letter codes has been used, cloak and dagger, because you can conceal the weapons, you can conceal the technology, and don't forget, when I started my career in 1986. The radio was not like today, like a mobile phone small. It was like bigger radios. You need to fit them in. Two-way radios, and the weapons and all these things. But the beautiful thing it is about all of this because it protects you against different agents. So letter codes can protect you by the communism was every side, doesn't matter west or east, was always looking the way to harm the people who are working or kidnap the people who intelligence services. So letter code will prevent possible insert by the foreign bodies, right? To the
that's what I was curious about. As you're talking, because tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I would think if I am in Zagreb or anywhere in Korea or anywhere in the Eastern Bloc, and I see a guy walking down the street in a black leather trench coat, I'm assuming he's a security official, and this is a Western perspective, right? I would think that's kind of the stereotypical, like textbook example of a communist spy in the where. So you would be standing out as. So am I wrong about that, or?
No, you're not wrong about that. There's a different tiers of the intelligence services. Like, when you see the police, like in the movies, right? Police tries to blend into society, like undercover agents. So
undercover.
We talk about informants. We talk about police officers who work intelligence, right? So they will they have the people who are working in the field and people working in office. Intelligence is a different tier of society. We are not being seen, and we are not being somebody who is blending into society. We don't need to blend in society.
Okay.
It's not designed to blend in society. We bring society to us.
Okay. Okay. So I'm wondering, yes. When you're wearing that coat, is it kind of like a uniform, and is it kind of like a instant respect and instant by the people you approach? Do they automatically treat you differently than if you're wearing a regular suit?
Look,
I mean, is it obvious? That guy gets it. He knows who I am. He knows, he knows.
They're guessing. Look, I met more people who are, how to call them, imposters, right? So, like, many times I'll be sitting in Croatia in some coffee shop, right? with my buddies and everything else. Even I lived in a city which was very large, 100,000 citizens. Even the people who live in my city, they didn't know what I'm doing because everything was perception that he does something. When you wear the uniform, insignia says a lot. But when you wear the civilian clothes, you go out in coffee shop, you don't want to say who you are. You just want to have your free time. Of course, you're always on alert. And I remember so many times people come to me and are being introduced to somebody and they will tell me I'm doing those things. So like, those things, okay, what is that, those things, right? Intelligence. It's like, are you really? Okay, interesting. The first rule of intelligence is you don't talk about intelligence. You literally don't talk. There's a very simple thing it is. You don't want to let your enemy or perpetrators harm those you love most.
Hmm.
And you're the weakest link, which I never understood. Now I can say things. I'm 50 years old man, and I'm having different perception of life. Many things are in my past, which doesn't. It belongs to analog technology, analog thinking. Um, and something's gonna go in the grave with me, of course. But the thing, it's very simple that you don't talk to people or flash the badge because you're not police. You're the structure of society which helps decision makers. I mean, on the highest level to understand. So, like there's expression to say, "Who is watching the watchers?" That's what the
Hmm.
counterintelligence it is. And now, as counterintelligence, intelligence is like me coming from me to your house to know what's happening. Counterintelligence, well, I'm looking for problems within my house and try to convert my problems into my benefits. That's the differences. So that's perception of the intelligence, counterintelligence. That people don't grasp this very much. Counterintelligence is who is watching the watchers. And I do remember, I know it sounds funny, but still even today, when we listen in conversations, top conversations, I was the guy. So you have two guys in front of me. They listen conversation, make the notes, and I was the guy behind them listening what they're listening. Record the tapes, comparing the notes, and then I give them my boss. What I didn't know that my boss has a guy in that room who was observing me all the time.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's like the checking. It's just unbelievable. So if, for example, like if I was a problem in counterintelligence services, my boss will not send me in prison, but try to convert me. That was my job. So, that's how we used to be work. So who is watching the watches? So letter code was a signature, same as a uniform.
Now you get to Australia, and you're
Yes.
still part of the well, what would I call it? Secret Service? What would you call?
No, look, I finished my work 2003, and I decided to stay in Australia.
Okay, okay, but you were working in Australia.
That's
I'm,
correct. Yes,
I,
that was working. Yeah, as a head of intelligence security services in Sydney. Yes,
I mean,
that was.
I mean, how many Croatians were there in Australia for you to keep tabs on? Do they have a big Croatian community or?
Australia is a beautiful country, and
Mhm.
Australia hosted a lot of immigrants from the
Oh,
Europe, right after Second World War, Italy,
okay, yeah.
Germany, Australia. It was a lot of people who fled Europe after Second World War. And the Croatian community in Australia, it's huge. Sydney,
Hmm.
it's like Croatian. They had. I will lie to you now how many it's today because I don't care. But at a stage when I come in Sydney alone, they have 7 clubs fully operational, supporting the Croatian community, all these parties and the churches and everything else. There's a darker side of this entire process, which, I can't even describe this, like there was a lot of these internal fights. And what people don't know, 71, there was a lot of Croatian from Australia went in Yugoslavia to start revolution 71 or 72. I lied to you now. I need to find it exactly the date. 71 or 72. I was just either I was born or just to be born. And about 20 people went from Australia and Germany. They meet together through Austrian borders to Australia, to Yugoslavia to start revolution. They believe it was a good time. And they're being betrayed. A group is being betrayed badly. And that's like, there's a lot of big internal rivalries here, which, I didn't want to take the part. My job was being to keep, what's it called, the flow of information between governments working and we're protecting each other. And the community was a big difficult part of my job here because there was so many layers, so many and don't forget one thing: there was not many us in Australia. There was only 5 guys of us in Australia. If you have American neighbors, they're gonna have 50 of them. So the one of the aspect of my job was being to understand Croatian community and their modus operandi, which I truly couldn't, because it was so colorful. But I kept on a leash myself, not to go into depth, because I'm gonna be lost in all this. And one day when I stay in Australia, I give up on community, so I disconnect myself, because this is not part of my life anymore. And let's go leave these things in the past. So I'm gonna
Okay, I
leave
want to
it
circle
down.
back a little bit
Yes.
to your time when you're
Yeah.
still in Croatia. So you spent what do you say, 1,800 days in on the battlefield. I mean, right, in a shooting, in an actual shooting war, right?
That's correct. So I started my first engagement was on the 14th of July 1991. The things people don't know, every revolution starts some point in time, and Croatia was brewing since 1990.
Mm.
My grandfather was alive that stage, and he was not happy what's happening, because he was building Yugoslavia, and there was a big fear they're gonna be retribution on his life, which was later on. But I was there where I was, and the people are just stopped. But I think it was messy. So my first engagement, my combat started 14th July 1991. Then I have the consecutive since July till end of January, continuously fighting. Then I had when there's no fighting, you in the trenches, because that was the war. I mean, we had nowhere, because this is not like a war. You will imagine, it's a moving, fast moving war, like in Iraq, or the Second World War, where the line was moving backwards and forwards. We defended cities, because enemy took at almost 40% of our territory. So we have the village next to village fighting. I mean, so I was in one village, another village. So 92, in April 92, the war started in Bosnia. So I've been sent as military advisors. We've been sent there to help the Croatians to shore up the defenses and teach them and everything else. So it's continuously been circling between Croatia and Bosnia. And eventually in October 1995, which everybody can take the calculator, was the last days of the combat. After that, I was being tasked the cleaning the groups that stayed in the mountains and in the villages, not accessible by vehicles or anything else, because that's where they're hiding themselves. They try to reignite the revolution. I mean, and so it's 1,800 consecutive combat days. Yeah. So let me
Okay.
understand. Sometimes I was sleeping. Sometimes, same right. We were
Yeah.
living in a city. I was living in my city, as everybody can check. Osijek was under constant barrage fire. So the first point of contact with enemy was at 2 kilometers from my home. So they were continuously shelling the city. So that was, so you don't need to be in the trenches, which is like a couple hundred meters outside of the city. You had to continuously shelling, combat in the city. And we had a lot of, they call them fifth column, right? So the hardcore commies, they stayed. And can you imagine sitting in a pitch black, and we have the curfews, and they were, they were doing the flashlights, so signaling, because my city was being surrounded 90%. So it doesn't matter. It's a flat, my city, around my city, everything is flat. It's a field of the corns and the weeds, so it's flat. So can you imagine during the night flashing the highest point? And of course, the enemy will say, okay, that's an orientation, boom, 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 boom. So
Wow. I mean, I do know that entire conflict was very violent and very bloody. So just coming through that all by itself, in one piece, I think you have all four limbs there. I've seen your boxing videos. That's a pretty amazing achievement all by itself. Now, I mean, I'm sure you think so. I mean, I would
when
think.
you're young and crazy, you're okay. I have 14 fractures, which I earned from 91 to 93. I was 3 times wounded. Um, yeah, like it, it was different times. if I say to people now, we have the pneumonia, every each of us, and the temperature was like a 15 degrees below. I'll never forget. We were shooting the vodka in veins, right? That's how we stay warm. And crazier you are, the better you are. And you will believe you're invincible. That comes to a moment in your life when I didn't want to meet new guys coming in the unit because I didn't want to know the names, because I know that there was rotation was very, very high of the people because of the combat injuries. And when I see now, I say like myself, we were just a crazy kids. That's why.
When you were in the security services, were you ever in as much danger as you were when you were in the trenches?
That was a second part of my life, which there is you're fighting invisible enemy. An invisible enemy, it's not something. I'll give you an example. You will drive the general for the meeting in the capital city, right? He doesn't know you. You're just a driver, right? You just sit with him and drive him around. And then you find out that general is telling the enemy's secrets. That general has the boat. That general has the money on the Cyprus bank, and everything else. After there's some period of time, and every time, so like for military to live, military needs to be protected as well. So it's not a military just doing the combat, all these things. There's a moments when the enemy is the asymmetric warfare, right? They're gonna use the cheap type of weapons or explosives, whatever it is, to cause the maximum damage. As like we can see across the globe. AK-47, 7.62.39 is not designed to kill. That weapon is not designed to kill. That weapon is designed to cause a lot of wounds, and that's what the people don't understand. Same goes with the 9mm Parabellum Luger 9.70, 9.18. That type of weapons is not designed to kill, except you don't come in close range, and then by accident, bullets hit you in places where you're gonna die immediately. So.
You and Rob are doing a series of podcasts, videos. Everyone should check out. Again, I'll have that link to that video in the description below as well, where you talk in detail about the conditions going on in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And of course, Rob is he's really good at the minutia on the technology stuff. And he knows, boy, I don't know if there's anything he doesn't know about the weapon systems involved, as well as strategy and stuff. And of course, you as well. You have a unique perspective you can put on it because of your experience in the trenches. Now Yugoslavia is translated as Yugo is south and Slavia for Slav. So they're Southern Slavs. That's what Yugoslavians are, right? So, and of course, Russians, Ukrainians, they're Slavs as well. So, you have that cultural connection with those people going on, fighting right now. So, not only do you have that cultural connection with what's going on there, but you also have the real world soldier experience, the misery of probably sleeping in the mud and the snow and the rain. At the same time, bullets are tracers are flying over your head. So so please, everyone, you should check out those videos. And really, they're long videos, sometimes, well, not long, half hour to an hour. Really, you should just settle in and listen because it's fascinating stuff. It is an important topic. I want to circle back a little bit. So let's go back to Australia. Okay, so you're in Australia, and so at some point you decided to just leave the special. How did that happen? Did you just wake up one day?
I shared this. So during my life in Australia, it's very dangerous to be engaged with domestic population. This is not my life. This is not my life. I'm here for the purpose. This is my mission, and I know that there's an expiration date. And for me, it was 4 years and 1 day, right? 4 years and 1 day. It's my term. I'm going home. more education, more this, updates and anything else, and they will send you another country. And I supposed to be awarded with a Washington that was called position A1. The Washington is the biggest battleground of the spies. People believe it or not, Washington exactly. But on that part, so one of my injuries in the war caused me that I couldn't have the kids natural way. So I met somebody in Australia, and we explained, I mean, I can date you only for 4 years and 1 day. No, that stage was a 2 years and 1 day. She said, what? So I fulfilled my dream to have a child, and I told my boss that I'm gonna become the father. He said okay, and I want to step out of the service in 2003 December, and he just looked at me. So there was no FaceTime then. There was no messages. There's nothing. I mean, there was the phones. I remember I have a Nokia 5110 that remember that was like a brick.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
And he asked me to come in Croatia, and I knew it the moment when I go there. Obviously, I'm not come back in Australia. So I said to myself, look, I have no other choice because I love my country. I love what I do. I'm proud of what I achieved. It's nothing to be fearful, even if they don't let me to come back. I mean, so I can resign, but I need to ask for new visa and everything else, and so on, so on. Because you're a diplomatic passport, right? So like you can't just sit on a normal passport that come in Australia. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there. He explained to me that my son is more than welcome to come with me and everything else. And said like, look, I want to try a new life. And after 7 days of negotiations and everything else, he says to me, listen, you've done a lot. You are gone through a lot. And it's time to to say goodbye to each other. And as he would drive me in the airport to come back in embassy, because I need to fly back and still work in embassy, of course, another 7-8 months. He says to me, let's go keep door open. I said, like, what does that mean? He says to me, you will know.
Wow.
Yeah, so the tragedy is that when I stayed in Australia, I started my new life. My son was born, and his mother was looking after him, and everything, it was beautiful, everything else, and so on. And I started my life as a bouncer, as a cleaner in the night shifts. I was questioning it. Is this is the way I wanted to do my life? Suddenly you find yourself you can't make enough money to feed your family, right? So I was try to stay sane, but when you see that your decision actually causing a lot of problems to not just yourself but everybody around yourself, because you're not anymore Mario in a letter code, right? There's no gun, there's no badge. You're just a guy who just started a new career in Australia, and I was at that stage 30 years old, and it was painful. It was very painful. Then my first job, in corporation, I was a data entry analyst. I was working in a bank and entering data what they fraud investigators collected. You know what I mean? So I said, like, okay, I need to start somewhere. You know what I mean? And my pride was because I truly believe that world owes me. At that stage, my son started developing some weird behavior. So they we went in hospital. The doctor says he has some 11 centimeters long thing on his head and he's epileptic. And I was like, fuck, come on, God, is there anything else? You know what I mean? So the next day, I lost a job in corporation, 2009. It was a GFC. Family, we lost a home. We lost everything. So family was falling apart. So the only choice I did have to start grinding on my own. So what I did, I opened my company called Instant Intelligence and, registered as a private detective. and I didn't know the marketing. And I said to myself, I'm gonna do something different. So what I did, I printed the Sherlock Holmes hat and with my mobile number. And I think myself, where's the best thing to I can advertise my services? So I go in the toilet cubicles, right? And people sit us like, do you need a PI there? So it was difficult, you know what I mean? It was difficult. First 3 years I had no clients. So I lived literally, very different life, and a life I never expect I'm gonna live. But slowly grinding, and that's a mechanics. I mean, you don't become successful overnight. And there was many days when I just want to give up of everything, and then the only thing it is was my son. So yeah.
So I
apologies for that one. So
no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So I can kind of guess, given what you just
feel
shared.
free to ask anything. Just
okay,
ask it.
I appreciate that very much. So I can kind of see now how you came up with your title, "Life the Battlefield." So I mean, you have a fascinating life, and you've been through an awful lot, and you those words probably ring really true to you, right?
Look, Ed, there is nobody on this planet who doesn't battle in their life. You know what I mean? I truly believe that every day is some type of battle. I waking up in the morning and finding out that people have become sick. Some people got married, some people make redundant and everything else. That's what when I met Rob several years ago before the big lockdown, like everybody goes in the cages. I start through his good buddy, Daniel. I met Rob, and I said, Rob, I want to be like you. I want to, one day to talk to people and everything else. And Rob was like, mate, you need to do some things first. I was like, okay. Try to practice English, talk slowly and everything else. And then the lockdown happened. And then I realized that we all have our story, but my life is not about me. And that's my channel. It is like I do a lot of interviews. I have 2 sections: lessons of life, which I'm applying my views of the life and everything else, my philosophy, my modus operandi. And then the second part is interviews, which I'm doing, conducting interviews with the people, particularly people like yourself, people who are every day making other people's lives better. Their experiences matter. So you can't win on the battlefield just using the one head. That's what it is. You will agree with me. Same we go like Ukraine now and the war in Ukraine and Russia. People only seeing the destructions of the Russian technology. And I said to people, you need to put few heads around. And they said, to what do you mean? The Russians are never prepared themselves for the high-tech war. Their battles are not high-tech war. They're using analog technology, because you see, analog technology doesn't corresponding to the digital technology. We know that new one age, I mean. So they're going to throw a lot of these things, that your battle looks different. And the order of battle is changing as we can see it now. I mean, Ukraine. And that's like, I feel sorry for every soldier there. It doesn't matter Russian, Ukraine, you know what I mean? Like, because one side, it's I favor more, which is Ukraine, because they're fighting for the freedom, for their home. But those Russian guys have been sent there, being in that snow and everything else. So the life, the battlefield is not just about me. It's about you, Ed, about people around me who can share their story. So my story, I try to capture this through my books, but as well, I can relate to the life of yourself or other people when I talk to them or interview them without big, inflammatory titles, you know what I mean? To say, you see, Ed goes through his life and this is his challenges, how he overcome. You know why? Because you're a normal, ordinary person. And many people can relate to your life rather than just, my name is Mario Beckerson. I suffer in life and, my life was not good and I become the urban monk and I'm the, like, who cares for this? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to teach the people something, people only learn when they're ready to accept the teachings. You can't, people expecting to, I always say to my son, work with what you have, not what do you want to have. And when you face your obstacles, Matteo, I said to him, so many times in hospital, I say, I never know what doctor's going to come walk to the door and give me news. And, I said to him, he makes fun of me. I said every morning, and I said, today it's gonna be a great day. And he said, how do you know you're psychic? I said, because I choosing to believe it's gonna be a good day. You know what I mean? Like, we are all born with a deadly diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
We're all gonna die, man. We're all gonna die. So you see it, you doing the favor to humanity, not by interviewing me, but as Rob and I said, we're doing the time capsule. So when you see the public speakers, when you see all these ones, they're not talking about life, the battlefield. They try to enforce their views on life. And you think in military and the people like laughing always like, when they're shouting and everything else. I hated that thing shouting in the military, but that's the only way do you need to tell them, this is the book, the code of army, and this is how it's going to be done. Nothing more, nothing less. There's no black and white. Sorry, gray zones. It's black and white. That's people shout. So public speakers, their podcasters, everybody's like, my life. Who cares? That was your life. That was my life. I wish I could change some things. I can't. So I truly believe that people like yourself come in my podcast or you interview me. That's the power. Instead of me just grinding and looking, piercing eyes. You can do it. You know what, Ed? Takes the courage that you put me today on your podcast. That's the courage. And I always say to my son, takes the courage to be coward as well. Trust me, my son. He said to him, he's like,
good lessons.
Trust me. Yeah,
Rob told me that you're planning on taking your son to Croatia or
that's correct.
Austria
like we're going to wild trip. This season, I said to him, prepare your Aussie ass for the nice and cold weather.
Will this be his first white Christmas?
Yeah, that's I said, I want to now while I can travel. I got 10 years time. I'm gonna be, different shape of form. So I said to him, listen, now it's time to travel, and then I'm gonna give him, I'm gonna pass him to his mother second part of the trip in January. And I said to him, and then when the summer comes, we're going to California. We're going, I want to always do that Route 66.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna visit you wherever you are. We're gonna find you. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Good for you. Route 66. I'm in Minnesota. You can do
see.
Route 66. Yeah, that's good for you for knowing about Route 66. Yeah, that's
I just want to try some things. Just look, I was, Ed, you're born there. This is your country, and I remember as a kid, seeing this in secret magazines being, smuggling in Yugoslavia because people, one thing to understand in communism. In communism, you read everything freely. No. We used to be going into the, what's it called? News agencies, they call them, right? They have the metal booths, in every corner with the southern newspapers, smokes and everything else. And 4 o'clock in the morning, all magazine comes there, which government says is not good, we'll take them away. And you can't argue. There was no paperwork from the government says, go in that shop. We knew where to go. So, sometimes somebody will smuggle some magazines and I will see all these pictures, Venice Beach, the Californians, like, God, look at this guy, look at these people, man, you know what I mean?
Venice Beach today isn't what it was when you're reading those books.
Around 66 it is.
It's a homeless camp now, Venice Beach. All of California is a home. Just skip California. Just sorry,
okay,
Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota. Yes,
Californians. But I'm sure every Californian watching this, every Californian right now is nodding. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
What a disappointment that turned out to be. But I had a question in there that I was. Now I lost my train of thought. So okay, so Mark, I watch a lot of YouTube videos trying to come up with a short list of places that I would like to have my next big adventure in. Here I am, I'm single again, my kids are grown, so I'm trying to think, well, you know what? Let's have another adventure.
Yes.
So I've got a short list of countries. So I'd go on YouTube a lot, I do all my research and look at, and Croatia looks like a beautiful country. I always hear really nice things about people living in Croatia. So am I wrong about that? Or?
No, you're absolutely right. Look, Croatia, it still has its soul. He's not overdeveloped. It's westernized a lot because thank God. in communism, it's not like that. Look, in communism, the major show was on a Sunday morning. I never forget 9:30. They're talking about Jesus, agriculture, right? And I just man, I just uh, and then you have
but
the
it's a pretty modern country now, right? It's
yeah, like
pretty
Croatia is a very modern country, but advising between the May and end of the August, mid-August to go, because particularly because it's a nice warm weather. It's when the spring comes, like it has a smell still. You know, what I mean, it has all this how to say you can live every day. In such a it's very safe country as well. I mean, we don't have
okay.
this terrorism things, and it's a
Okay.
brutally controlled. The terrorism is being squashed on left, right, center. We don't have these things, so it's very, very good. Um, and it's very safe country. We still have ID cards over there, and these things. But if you go on the May, it's a nice, beautiful, and you can start, from the East Slavonia where I live, I mean, towards the Zagreb to west, and then go on the coast, in July, and it's a warm July, sorry, June, July. It's very, very hot for the
Well, when I
coast.
go, I'll get in touch with you. You can advise me on a
Sure, absolutely, like
really good route.
and I'll be pleasure. I'll be honored there. You will love it. You will love. You will.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Look,
We
I
have
want
the
to.
expression.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we have expression. We kill people with love. You know
Oh,
what I mean? We kill them with love because we
that's
give them
that.
everything. So yeah.
That's the way I want to go. But no, I want to see the whole part of. I want to go up to Romania and Hungary, and I want to see that whole part of the world because I grew up during the cold, through the Cold War. So
Yeah.
one of the countries I'm really fascinated to see is Russia, frankly, and
Mm.
the reason being, when I was growing up, Russia was a mystery. No one knew anything about what was going on really in Russia. We had our stereotypes about Russia through the movies and stuff, but behind the Iron Curtain, no one really knew. It was a big mystery what's going on. But so I'm just curious. I would like to get into Russia and see actual Russia, besides the politics. To set aside, I just want to meet actual Russians and see and experience Russia. Ukraine is high on my list, and Minsk. I think because I've met plenty of Russians here in Minnesota. We
Yeah.
have a Russian population.
Yeah.
Most of them really are not very political. They're living their lives,
Yeah.
and they're very traditional type values, which I
Yeah.
I respect. Anyway, so boy, I took up way too much of your time already.
No,
So
that's okay. That's okay.
do me a favor. Why don't you show us your books because you are a published author, and why don't you show my audience
On
your
English.
books?
Look, I want to say thank you to people like yourself. I always come back to one thing. It's not what you're by nature, but by nurture. And you met people in life with a reason. And the truth it is, someone's going to teach you lessons, someone's going to give you the blessings. I believe that my first part of my life, it was a little bit like a roller coaster and a lot of bad decisions done in my life. Like, I'm not a saint. And one of the good decisions I did, I listened people who appeared in my life. So I have the people like you, Ed and Rob, who in my life told me, why don't you publish the book? And it's like, why would I publish the book? Like, first of all, it's on English, I know English now, but it's a different speaking, different writing, different in
Yeah,
spelling.
yeah,
And you all agree, like, when you say, did you write, word, let's go say right, you think should turn the right or I'm correct? I mean, like this is my son, he's picking on me, right? He's picking on me every day. God bless his soul. I love it. He does this. So I published several books on my close to the heart topic and the work experience, which is interrogation and human intelligence. However, my first book called The Bloodsucker Soil, people can see it. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
talking about this life. I'm talking as I've been 18 years old, drawn into the conflict, which I never understood, and we all believe we are gonna be like a Rambo, just have the biggest machine gun. You're gonna kill everybody, and that was me. I mean, literally. And then you realize the war is not. That's what you think. And now, thank you, Ed, for asking again, and thank you to your audience, and thank you to people on your channel for listening this. Today, I had a little book launch here in the city because still it's everything soft, soft because of the COVID.
Mhm.
So what is the true price of freedom? and the boat, that's all me. So I mean, but the big difference, men with the hair, men with the hair here, men without hair next year. So in this book, I'm talking about, are you prepared to die for freedom and democracy? So I'm talking about war in a different way. Like while I was fighting war, I was consistently being drawn in other days to fight organized crime, black market, spies, and everything else. And when I saw that truly casualties of the war are the people behind my back were civilians and economy and all these things, I said to myself, we're fighting this war for somebody else's pocket, and freedom is the one thing, but we die now for something else. So this is to my books. So thank you for asking that. This is both you can find on Amazon.
Okay.
This is personal experience accounts of the war as an 18 years old man, and explaining some fights, some gross things, but as well my thinking.
Okay, well, we've gone way over the allotted time, but that's because I was enthralled. I could not. I was just fascinated. I lost track of time. And normally with these long, I do the same thing with Rob. We get to talking, and it goes on forever. Then I edit it down. I don't think I'm going to have anything to edit from this guy because it's all good. There's nothing I can edit out. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for making you sit on your butts for so long. Hopefully, you can chop it up and watch it in segments or something. But I hope you watch this entire interview. Special thanks to Mario Becks at a special location in Australia. And thank you so much, Mario, for sitting down with me and sharing with our audience, your experiences and a few little secrets that probably nobody else has ever gotten out of them. So
not yet. Another 20 years, then I will care less.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Mario. So g'day, Mario, and I got to get an Australian thing in there. G'day, Mario.
G'day.
All right. Okay, Mario Becks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mario.